my head this way, and yeah, it's weird.
Cool. So we're live. So hello, everybody. This is the start of season 2 of the podcast, which is so exciting. And this week, I'm really excited to have Jacqueline Zacharias with us, who not only is an amazing horsewoman, she's also completely lovely. And I'm really blessed to have spoken to her a number of times over the internet. So yeah, could you start off by telling everybody a bit about yourself and how you got involved with horses and some of the awesome things that you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on. My name is Jacqueline Zacharias, obviously. I got involved with horses when I was about 4 years old. My mom wanted us to have horses because that was kind of a big dream of hers when she was young. And so I'm really fortunate that that was something that she allowed us to have in our lives. And around the age of 10, I kind of decided, I want to start working with horses a little bit more. And we had this one because, new horse people, at least in our case, we weren't exactly the most knowledgeable. We didn't take the path that I would recommend people take now, but we had a few unstarted horses that we got as our first horses. And so that if you wanted to ride them, you had to figure out how you were going to work with them, how you're going to get them to move out, how you were going to teach them to do what you wanted them to do. And so that was kind of my start with horse training. And then I took my first client's horse when I was 13 and started working from there, and then took some time off and rode as an amateur for a while after I got married. And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
So my next question is, we've spoken quite a bit on the podcast about the Mustang Makeover, but tell us how you got involved in that and what was the draw to that?
Well, I actually was just in love with the idea of having a Mustang. That's kind of a big thing to me. I don't know. I think it's probably a lot of little girls' dreams. And I was actually searching on Craigslist online for a Mustang for sale. And this ad came up for someone was looking for youth competitors for a Mustang Makeover event. And I was like, $25 and I could compete and get a Mustang and this and that and the other. And so I started scrambling. It was like 1 week before pickup, and I called the people and they were like, hey, you can still get in. We have one extra horse here. And I was not equipped with the right facility. I didn't know anyone who was, and I just started calling around like crazy, offering to work for anyone who would let me keep a Mustang. And I was 14 at the time. And so that's when I got my first horse. I was able to work it out. I got a Mustang. I worked the summer to keep it, trained to end as reserve champion in that first event. So
hang on a minute, rewind. So okay. What was your experience prior to doing that, age 14?
Okay, so I had worked with a lot of horses. I would work with any horse I could get my hands on it. I wasn't really getting paid, but I thought I was, and it was kind of more the thing, like, I wanted that experience. I wanted to be able to work with horses. And so any horse that someone would be like, hey, I'll give you $25 to ride this horse, I would work with it. So that's kind of very limited experience. And obviously, again, I wouldn't recommend this approach to most people, but I was very ambitious and very driven to accomplish some things. And I had some big dreams and goals. And so I did have some experience, a lot of experience around horses, some experience training before I did get the Mustang. And it was a yearling, mind you. So it wasn't an adult.
So tell me how that pans out then, because I'm going back to when I was 14 and thinking, oh my word, like, so you ended up with a professional trainer that mentored you through it and you kept the horse there. Is that how it worked?
So actually, I didn't have a professional trainer at that time either. The guy who was hosting the event, he was a professional. And he kind of took me under his wing as far as like I could call him and get advice anytime I needed. He had done a bunch of work with the Mustangs, and his name was Mike Branch, and just a really good friend. And he just again, we're still good friends to this day, just a phenomenal person and really helpful to people, and kind of took it as his mission to help me get into this and see me through it. And so he lived a ways away, so it wasn't like I could see him or get training from him in that way. But in the sense that I had a connection there that I knew, and I could talk to them and be like, hey, I can't do this or whatever. But it was actually really smooth. I will say that if you want to get into the Mustangs, the yearlings are a really good way to start. They're pretty easygoing, pretty easy to get along with, and I really enjoyed my years working with the yearling Mustangs. So it was probably, again, like I said, my whole goal was just to have a Mustang. That was kind of the dream. And about 3 weeks to a month before the end of the competition, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I haven't really been working that hard at this competition, and some other kid out there is going to beat me, and I'm, and I want to be a horse trainer when I grow up. I said, I better get my butt in gear and start working on this horse. And so I got into the competition, and I will tell you this, it went well. It went pretty well. I had a dog in my freestyle, and the dog fell off the horse, and it went really bad. Like, I started crying in the middle of my freestyle, and some kid who'd never owned a goldfish before in his life beat me with his Mustang. So that was my start to my horse training career. So sort of, I had trained.
I'm still incredulous about this. So in the youth class, how long do you have with the Mustang, and what do you have to do at the end of it?
So you have the same time as the adult makers. I think it was about 3 months, 3.5 months or something. And you have an in-hand pattern class. So I think you have like in-hand trail, in-hand pattern, handling and conditioning. So the horse has to be able to pick up all 4 feet, has to be able to, you have to be able to catch it in a round pen, you have to be able to load it on a trailer, all those basic things. And then the trail class, you have to walk it over poles, sometimes cross a tarp, go through cones, go through those little, what are those things called? It's not a cowboy curtain, which sometimes they have those, but the noodles. Yeah. And just different things like that, cross bridges. And then you make it into the finals if you do, and the top 10. And then you can do your own freestyle. And so, yeah.
Amazing. So freestyle, is that on the lead rope, or is that at Liberty, or
either? Anything you want to do, you can do it. It's
amazing. Yeah. So where did you go then, age 14? I'm thinking about me, pretty lame with my pony club dressage age 14. It's a bit lame compared to that, isn't it?
I wouldn't say that's lame. No, so again, like I said, I had this dog that I trained to ride the horse, and I did this. Oh my gosh, this is so horrible because it still like makes me feel bad even 10 years later. But I had the dog jump on the horse, and this is where like it all went south. And the dog didn't really want to get on for some reason. I think he was like having stage fright. And he finally gets on the horse, and he starts trotting around, and he loses balance and falls off. Well, for some reason, I had looped the leash around the horn, and so he like hung for a second. So obviously I'm like crying in the middle of the show, and I'm like trying to hold myself together. It's just like so mortifying. But I came in reserve, so it wasn't the end of the world. I had done pretty well in the rest of the competition, and but it was pretty bad. I still don't.
That sounds amazing. So where did you go from there then? What was the next challenge after that? Because I think that was a pretty big deal, age 14.
So immediately I wanted to get back into it. I would say that was 10. So I think 11 I didn't compete. I might have picked up a horse, but I didn't compete. And then 12, wait, did I do it on 11? I can't remember. I've had like Mustangs every single year, so it's hard for me to remember. And then, so I did it again in 12, and then I was reserve champion again for, I don't really know why. That one went really, really well. It was a really good competition. And at the end of the event, they actually had the judges check and recheck the scores like 3 times because they weren't sure what happened. And I'm not trying to sound like a bad sportsman. It was just really, really interesting, but it kind of motivated me. I was like, I got to do this again. I got to win this thing. So in 2013, I did 2 of them. I did one in Georgia, and then the big Mustang Million event that was down in Fort Worth, Texas. And I ended up winning both of those. And I also met my husband down there. So yeah, I was 17 at the time.
That's amazing. So I'm also fascinated to know, you obviously work together quite well. I've tried working with my husband, and we've nearly killed each other, to be honest. So how does that work?
There was definitely a learning curve to it. So a lot of people are like, this is so cute. You guys are living the life of your dreams and everything. And we are, for sure. But when we were dating, it was a long distance relationship. He lived in Wisconsin and I was in Tennessee. So I would go visit him or he would come visit me. But because he had obviously his business was much more built up and he had consistent clients. You can't just leave that. So I would come up there for sometimes 1 month, or I think the longest I stayed was like almost 3 months at a time, and work with him during that time. And I mean, yeah, it wasn't always a smooth road, and definitely finding that learning curve, because he had a hard time. Like it was like I'd start working with him and he went from boyfriend to boss like really quickly, and there was like no feelings or empathy there. It was really awkward, and I'm getting my feelings all hurt and everything. And so we definitely had some stuff to work out there, but now that we stuck it out and got through it, it's really good and it's really enjoyable.
And presumably you both bring quite different things to the table regards training ideas, because you obviously had a lot of experience prior to meeting him as well. So,
yeah. Yes, but honestly, when a lot of our horsemanship views were very similar, I will say he was obviously more experienced when we did meet. I have learned a lot of things from him, and we've gotten to go ride with different trainers and experience a lot of things together as well. So not so much. There are a few different approaches, and still now, if you watch our training videos, each one of us kind of has a little bit of a different technique when you go into something, but the philosophy behind all of it is very, very similar. It's all the same. So
cool. So the next question is, so how do you structure your training plan for the 100-day sort of makeover? I know we've spoken about this before. It just utterly blows my mind how you get so much done in such a short space of time. So can you tell us mere mortals how you do that?
Mere mortals. Okay, so for me, that can be a tough one, because there are times when I'll get a horse and you're just struggling through the first few days, and you get a bit discombobulated, and you're like, I got to get my head together, because I only have 120 days here, and it can just feel like things are moving really fast or really slow, or you just getting that first focus point can be kind of hard, getting from 0 to 1. But what I found works best for me is to make a list. I know what's involved in the competition. I know what maneuvers I'm going to have to do. So I think about all that stuff from the most basic to the most advanced maneuver that I'm going to do. I even plan out my freestyle in advance, because all of those things that my horse needs to do, say if I want to lay him down on Saturday night at the end of the competition, you don't teach your circles and your spins and your picking up the feet and everything, and then a week before the competition, you're like, okay, now we plan for freestyle. So you have to know everything you're doing and work on it, just chip away at it, just incrementally every single day. But it helps to have that focus in your mind about what has to be done, and how much time does it need for it to absorb into this horse's mind. So definitely making a list, focusing on the essentials, and then like the freestyle, the things that you want to have done.
Okay. So. And another thing that you said to me previously about the 3 things for 5 minutes, I found that really helpful as well, just to focus on 3 things each session.
Yes.
So explain about that a bit more.
So when I'm working with a horse, or if I have someone who's like, okay, I don't really know, I don't know where to go in my sessions, that can be really, really a dry place to be in your horsemanship. If you get on your horse and you're like, you know what, there's really nothing to work on. So sometimes we can get out there, we'll have all this stuff in our mind of what we want to work on when we go out there, but then we'll get out there and be like, what was it? Like, what am I doing out here? And so I think it's important to, again, keep those things categorized, and then just pick a topic, maybe 3 topics or something, work on them for 5 minutes if you're having a hard time finding that motivation. Work on one thing for 5 minutes, pick another thing, work on it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever your time frame is, because some people, like in your case, what we were talking about, you're trying to stretch that capacity and get that focus point. So just like we would for a horse, if a horse was really struggling with something, I wouldn't drill on it for 30 minutes at a time. We want to get that horse more focused and find that reward, versus trying to stretch that out too long. So that's where the 5 minutes, pick 3 things, work on them 5 minutes a piece, put your horse up if you have to, find that starting point and get that growth.
Love it. So back to the Mustangs then. How on earth do you build the trust so quickly? Because I've watched a lot of your videos on YouTube, and I can recommend to anybody to go out and find Zacharias Horsemanship YouTube channel. And it just blows my mind how you build the trust so quickly. Like what is the secret?
Well, what is absolutely incredible about these horses, and I think the thing that a lot of people who haven't done it don't really grasp, is that the honest truth is the more you work with a horse in the right way, as long as you're respecting him and caring for him, the more you work with him, the more discipline you add to his program, the more they actually love you, like the more that bond grows. So think about this. If you just ran into me on the street and we had a nice little conversation and you liked me, but we had no depth behind that conversation, there's going to be, you're going to value me a lot less than if we've been through a few things together, say maybe a few weeks or a few days, and we had to work side by side and we had to work on this really grueling project. And, and we did it and we came out on the other side and we're like, you know what, Louise, you're a great friend. Like we did this together. Suddenly there's going to be much more of an added value to a friendship. So that's kind of the way it works with the horses. You can come up to a horse and kind of make him your friend and love on him and pet him, but there's no reason for him to come up to you in the pasture after that. He's got no connection. Where if you work through some things together, find that connection, find that discipline, and build a mutual respect, then it actually is, the bond just gets stronger and stronger the more time you put in, I found.
And do you think like the time frame of the competition helps with that? Because you are kind of under pressure. Like if you didn't have the pressure of the competition, do you think you wouldn't have the same, I don't know what I'm trying to say now, but yeah, the fact that it's a challenging environment and a challenging time frame, does that help, do you think?
I think in the sense that we put more time in with them, like more quality time. It's so condensed, and we're trying so hard to work that horse through things without blowing his mind or without getting him worried, things like that. So there's definitely that balance there. And if I had 2 years, I wouldn't have to put that horse nearly through so many things every day. I could plan it and stretch it much further out. So would I still have a really great bond? Yes, but that bond that you see where the horse is literally just you and them, and if you leave their stall, because a lot of the times we'll take these horses to the makeover and they don't even want to eat when you're not around.
Oh.
Like that's how close they are. You leave and they're just like looking all over for you. Like, so a lot of times we spend a bunch of time at the stalls with the horses just because they're so connected to us. Like we're just a herd of two, and so it's pretty incredible the bond that you can build. And I think that's pretty neat, but you are probably right that if it was stretched out over more time and we only had to spend so much time with them every day and it wasn't so concentrated and so challenging, then it might be a little bit more, they might be a little more mellow. So I don't know. I haven't done it.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting, like for somebody like me who's not sort of riding particularly anymore, like that's why I found the horse agility and the ILHA competitions really useful to give some structure to my training. Otherwise, like
Absolutely.
you say, you come out and you think, oh, what am I doing today and why am I doing this?
Right.
If you've got something to work towards, it does really
Absolutely, yes.
your mind a little bit.
I think that's so healthy, and I'm so glad that what Dan and Elizabeth are doing with the ILHA, and it gives people a goal outside of just riding. So if you don't want to ride, or if maybe your confidence isn't quite there or something, then it gives people things to work on with their horse outside of that. And I think that's so good because shows and competitions allow people to set goals for where they want to be. And if you don't have those goals set, I'm not saying you can't get anywhere, but it really does help you to find a focal point and really concentrate and dig down and make some headway with your horse.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when like I've been training for a few months for the show this weekend, but then when you go to put the whole pattern together, you're like, oops, I thought I had that nailed.
Exactly. Yes. Tell me about it. You'll run into that with the Mustangs too. And that's why it's so important to like run through your patterns and stuff to be like, oh, wait a minute. I guess it's not working as clear to the horse as I thought it was, Yeah. So yeah. And how's it going how is all that going?
Good. Yeah. Good. I've got one pattern filmed, going to get it submitted. So yeah, it's good. And they've got some new green horse classes as well. So in the round pen, so that's really good rather than the whole arena. So they've just introduced those this month.
I'll have to get in with those.
They're great.
That's right. That's great.
Cool. So my next question is, where do you turn to for advice and inspiration then? When you're sick of your husband?
Honestly, he's definitely one of my best sources for advice because I know the trainers he's ridden with. I've ridden with some of them myself. I know his philosophy and stuff. So sometimes you just need an extra set of eyes. He's definitely one of the main people that I would turn to immediately if I'm having trouble with something. I do have some really awesome trainers in my circle that are just so phenomenal, and people who've mentored me and people I can just reach out to if I do need some advice. As far as inspiration goes, people who inspire me in the horse world aren't necessarily always like, I want to say, like, there are people like Andre Frapani who I think are, oh, he's just such an incredible rider and trainer and everything. But the connection there, when I think of people who inspire me, I think of people who inspire me on a personal level. Like, I keep mentioning Dan and Elizabeth, but they're just such a dynamic couple, and they're such good friends. And when you're around them, they're just so personable and they're kind to people, and they look out for people as individuals. And I've met several women last year, and we always talk about women supporting other women and everything, but it seems like we kind of get into this competition frame of mind, and until you experience it, you never actually know how vital it is. And this past year, I don't know why, but several women in my life just have been so supportive and so caring and so I don't even know how to put it, but it's just been such an inspiration to me to see it. And I'm like, why? What did I do to deserve this? Like, you guys have been so kind to me. And it's just such a empowering thing to me to get to experience other women helping me out, supporting me. And so I want to do the same for others. That's what inspires me. And I hope that I reciprocate that to all the women in my life. So.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, you inspire me, so there you go.
Oh, well, thank you. That's good.
So what's the most important thing you've learned through your journey with horses so far then?
One of the most important things, I think, is, how do I put this? The way everything is so universal. And when I say that, I mean, growing up, I read the book, I think it's by Dale Carnegie. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I read it several times. And it's funny when you read through that, just how much of that philosophy actually applies to horses. And when you worked with a bunch of horses, it's interesting how much that changes your outlook on people and what they can deal with and the kind of pressure they can put up with. And maybe they're not actually angry at me. They're getting defensive about something because maybe I attacked them in a personal way that I wasn't realizing, So all those, that's just one example. But there are so many times that people react in a certain way because you did something that maybe you weren't aware of. And they're not, the outward appearance of it is say that maybe they're angry with you or they're lashing out or they're doing this. And it's like, you're a horrible person. And it's like, no, maybe something happened in their life. And this is their way of being defensive about it without showing vulnerability. So you see that a lot with horses too. And so I think that's one of the most important things, is just realizing how much everything in life is universal and kind of relates to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree, 100%. So what's the best compliment you've ever received?
That's a tough one. I'm kidding. Never had it. No, I'm kidding. I think that honestly it wouldn't be related to horses. There have been a few times, I want to say this very carefully because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, where in a really unconsequential moment, I did something for someone that I didn't think about. And then later they told me how important it was to them or how much it mattered to them at the time. And it just made me realize, I was like, wow, like there's so many things we could be doing on a day-to-day basis that we don't understand how it's affecting the people around us for better or for worse. And in that case, for better. And I was like, man, it's a little bit inspiring that, hey, I need to step up my game every day, not just, just on certain moments. So maybe exactly. About kindness for sure.
Yes, I was only talking about that today, actually. I was telling somebody that I'd sent Dan Steers an Instagram message because he'd written this magazine article that I really wanted to read, but it was in an Australian magazine that I couldn't access. And within days, he emailed me the PDF, and I was like, he didn't have to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
It's such a little thing, but for me, that was massive. And it was like, I really appreciated it and thought, oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, those little things, I think sometimes you don't realise, do you, that they are massive things to other people.
And for sure. And it can depend. Like maybe someone's just having a bad day and they wouldn't normally need that, but you stepped in the right time and it just happened to be what they needed. So that is really special and really cool that he was able to get that piece to you, because I know, I mean, even for me, I feel so bad sometimes, such a procrastinator, and people ask me to do something, I'll be like, oh yeah, sure, I have all the best intentions, but do I actually get it done? Sometimes no. So
yeah, you do have a lot going on there, don't you? When you said to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm still like fast asleep at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, horses won't ride themselves.
No, that's true. Okay, so what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, either horse related or not?
I think a lot of the best advice I've received has a lot to do with mastering our attitude or emotions. And one old cowboy told me, this was several years ago, and I remember him telling me, and you hear this all the time, it sounds really cliche, but it's just so incredibly true. He said, the core of horsemanship is mastery of the emotions. And if you think about how true that is and how widespread it is, it's pretty incredible, because a lot of people think, okay, so I just, I can't be angry, I can't take my frustrations out on the horse, I can't do this or that. But they don't take into consideration that they can't pour their heart out on the horse. They can't put all this extra emotional baggage from themselves on the horse, even if it's maybe positive emotions. I think there needs to be a balance there, and we need to have a collection within ourselves that, because what I see often happen is that people walk out there thinking, okay, if I love my horse this much, he's going to love me back. And that'll only get you hurt. Like, it really hurts people, and they'll take it really personally when that horse doesn't reciprocate that. But horses don't feel emotions the same way we do, and they cannot reciprocate that in that way. So I think it's very important when you go into working with horses that you definitely control your emotions on the fear and anger side, things like that, but also don't take things personally. Don't let it get to you when you have a bad day. And that takes a long time to figure out, because often we can feel like it was all our fault, or we did this, or our horses didn't do this. We had expectations about what should happen in this session. And when it didn't, we were so hurt about it, and it just tore us down. So mastery of the emotions, I think, is very important. Controlling our attitude on everyday life, I think those two things are the best advice that I've had.
That is such a little gem. I've literally never thought about it like that. I'm all over the anger thing. I've never lost my temper with a horse, ever. Far more likely to lose my temper with my children or my husband or something. But I've never thought about the whole mad conversations that go on in my head, where I'm like, exactly like you've just described, oh, I did it all wrong, and oh, I'm going to ruin her life forever, and all the ridiculous guff that pours out of my head. I've never thought about that aspect of it before.
Right, for sure. So it's an all-around encompassing thing, and so it's definitely all the emotions need to be gathered and collected. And I think it's very important that we do love and respect our horses, but we can't, it has to be something where we expect nothing in return. If they don't reciprocate, like if they don't give us what we're wanting that day, we can't be down about it. We just have to put it out there. It's like you see these teen counselors and stuff. They have to put all that love out there. They have to put that care and respect out there. They don't expect it back, because they know they're probably not going to get it back, and they just have to continue that day by day and chip at it. And obviously in our minds, it is going to get us down. I still have days where I'll have a really tough time, and I'll just be like, what in the world is going on? Like, why can't what am I doing that's not communicating what I want to this horse? And it can be really frustrating, and you just have to realize, I'm going to go out there tomorrow, I'm going to try it again. Like, mentally focus on it, try to clear your head, but don't let it get you down. And I know that can be so hard. They can be really, really hard. So
that is a gem. Thank you for that. I'll work on that one. So the next one. So I've mentioned your very successful YouTube channel. So how do you deal with the inevitable sort of negativity associated with social media? Because I think a lot of people are frightened of putting themselves out there, because there are some pretty mean people out there that get quite brave and unfiltered behind a keyboard. How do you deal with that? Have you got any gems on that one?
So it is pretty it's pretty crazy what people are willing to say when they're behind the safety of their screen and their keyboard. And when I went to start a YouTube channel, well, honestly, I didn't. I was kind of on accident. I was just kind of documenting some of my Mustang stuff. I wasn't really trying to grow the YouTube channel or anything like that. And I had always wanted to do kind of like training videos and a training series outside of just Mustangs, because you'll notice the Mustangs, it's very easy to grow your social media and your YouTube channel and things like that with the Mustang videos. It's kind of a novelty, and a lot of people like to see it, regardless of who you are. If you're a horse person or not a horse person, it really draws a large crowd in, and you can grow pretty quickly on that topic. But I wanted to kind of have a more universal approach and really also encompass the other breeds that I enjoy working with. So we have a lot of warm bloods in training. We have a lot of quarter horses, our own personal horses, are a lot of ranch riding, reining type horses. And I wanted to grow my training videos based off of who I really was, not something that would just grow quickly, So that has taken a little bit more time, but I'm kind of off subject here. You're talking about the negativity. What I was going to say is that when I first thought about doing it, I was like, how am I going to handle this? I've seen so many horrible comments. People just flat out attack you. They'll say the rudest things about your training. But it was strange when I started actually putting videos out there. It didn't really affect me in the way that I thought it would, because you realize the people who are saying those things they're not the doers. They're not out there doing it. I don't know any successful trainer, anybody who I look up to, that ever gets on someone else's photo or video or whatever they're doing and is like, blah, 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 you suck. It just doesn't happen, in their mind. They may look at someone else with a little bit of contempt and be like, okay, that's not how I would do it. That's kind of dumb, or something else like that. But they'll never voice it or just completely trash somebody because they don't like what they did. And so that has really helped me. It's like the people who are actually out there doing it, they're not going to be the ones criticizing you. The people who have no experience, the people who have just enough experience to think they know what they're talking about, those are the kind of people you're going to get comments from. And that really, it just kind of rolls like water off a duck's back. So that the biggest thing that I deal with mentally is wondering, what are my mentors going to think? I know that sounds silly, but I really do. I struggle with that because I know so many phenomenal horsemen and women, and that was one of the hardest parts. I was like, who am I to be giving out advice on this? And it is really hard to break that barrier, because me as a young person especially, I'm thinking there's so many other people who are qualified to do this. What makes me think that I can do it? So I think that was a hard one, but what helped me is to realize that my purpose in doing this is to try and help horses and help other people. I'm not doing this for myself. If I'm doing it for myself, then I can think about all that stuff. I can worry about, what are people going to think of me? Where if I take the focus off, what is this doing for me? And 2, what am I doing for others? It really helps me to deal with that self-consciousness.
I think it's really nice for people to see a journey as well, rather than, because I think I first saw a video of you at the Mustang Makeover final. It was actually part of a video that Sam Van Fleet had posted, and I saw your freestyle thing.
Okay.
But then it was months later when I found your channel, and I was like, oh, that was that person that did that, because I recognised the thing. And it's just kind of nice to see the backstory and see all that behind it. I think people really connect with that, learning more about the person and the training philosophy and stuff. I think it's really nice, but I also think it's brave. So well done.
It does take time. I would say if someone had taken where I was 3 or 5 years ago and just like dropped me into the position where I am now, I would probably be quite flustered and things might bother me a lot more. But you just ease into it and kind of move along, and the journey just takes you where it will, and your experience grows. And I mean, you become comfortable and kind of just
cool.
Feel that stuff.
Now, I've got a question from the kitchen. My husband's making tea. He normally sends questions from the bath. He's in the kitchen tonight. He says, what horse have you most regretted selling, and why? I think is what he's trying to say.
Think about that. That's going to take me a second. Okay, so I think most regretted selling. All right, so I had a Mustang from the 2012 makeover, and I had sold her after the makeover, and then I think it was like a year later, the people who owned her, I offered to trade them this road horse that I had. He was trained, he had been ridden miles on the road. He was just super bomb-proof, super easygoing. And I was like, would you consider trading that yearling for this horse I have here? Because she was just really special. She was just really dynamic mare, and she's jet black. At the time, she was probably 14.3, this tall, lanky Mustang, surprisingly. And maybe she was 18 months, 2 years old at the time. I'm not sure, but she wasn't started or anything besides the groundwork I had done. And they said, yeah, we'll do it. So I got the horse back, and I kept her for a long time. And she was just the smoothest, most beautiful mover, just the kind of horse you could just get on and go anywhere with, and beautiful loper, easy to ride. I mean, just all the good things I could say about her. And when we moved out here, then I brought both of my horses out with me. And it was one of those things where the board here is a lot more expensive. It's not like you can just keep them out on your own pasture. The facility where we keep them is quite expensive to just have a personal horse. And it got to the point where I wasn't riding her as much as I would like to. And we talked about it. I talked about it with my husband, and he's like, yeah, you might want to just try selling her. And I listed her for what I thought was a decent price at the time. And now, knowing what I know, it was way too low. But and literally someone called that night. It was like, I'm putting a deposit on your horse. They were out in California. Like, I need that horse. I'm going to buy her. It's a dressage rider. And so she bought her. And I don't really regret selling her, because the horse has a wonderful life, and she's out there doing dressage and just having a phenomenal time. But would I love to keep that horse if I had the pasture and had the space and the time? Yes, I would still have that Mustang. So that's probably the one. And then I have had some Mustangs that I've had since then that I really, really loved, but I can't say I regret selling them. I just would love to have them if I could, Yeah.
If you could collect.
Yes, exactly. I would have my own little Remuda of all the best horses then.
Yeah.
And so if I could, there was horses I definitely would keep.
Amazing. Yeah. So what's the one thing you wish you'd known when you began your career?
Let me think about that.
Because you got to go a long way back if you were doing it for money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think about that. I honestly don't know that there's any one thing that's like, oh, I wish I had known that. I think that obviously the professionalism you learn over time, and kind of the charisma and stuff, that's stuff that all comes over time. You wish you had that in the beginning, because you make mistakes and you're like, oh, that's kind of cringy, I shouldn't have done that. But you couldn't have known beforehand. Like, you're just not going to know that stuff. So yeah, if I could have just started right off the bat with all the professionalism and the know-how that I have, then I would have definitely done that. And I know that 20 years down the road, I'm going to be like, what was I talking about? I wish I knew then what I know now. So
yeah, you're still pretty young. How old are you?
I'm 25.
25. Oh, I wish I was 25 again. So, right, this is my big question that I ask everybody. How do you believe in yourself and your horses?
For like shows or what we can accomplish, in what way?
Just in life. I think probably at your age, you've got a bit of an advantage, because I'm sure I had much more self-belief when I was 25 than I do now. But just, when life comes along and you have little knocks and you've got to keep believing in yourself, how do you do that? Well,
I think that my parents, especially my mom, they instilled in me a belief in competence, of what I'm capable of achieving. And it has been so helpful in that mindset to just know that, hey, I can get through this. I can finish this. So if I have a big goal set for a horse show or something and things just really aren't going well, then I just take a step back, I reset, and I just go full steam ahead again with those goals in mind. And my mom had a rule in our house growing up that we were never allowed to say, I can't. We were allowed to say, I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. So we're not allowed to say I can't. So I think that philosophy, I still carry that with me. It's like, no, I can. I just really don't know how right now. And so I try to take that approach. And there are times when I'll really struggle with something. But I if someone ever tells me, oh, you can't do such and such, I really have a mental struggle with them. Well, what are you talking about? And I know that they didn't mean it by anything, but yeah. So anyway, I don't really have a hard time believing in my horses, and obviously when it comes to what they're capable of, then I try to pick horses that are more mentally and physically capable for the job I'm trying to achieve. I don't know if that's the direction you're going with that question, but so I'm not putting them under extra pressure to achieve something that I have in mind that they possibly won't be able to accomplish. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay.
Oh, Stu says he loves that. Like, husband in the kitchen says he loves that. Right, so my final question is then, what are your goals for 2021? We're a bit into it now, aren't we? It's nearly in April.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So I had some really big goals, and normally I just I don't really put my goals out there because I'm the kind of person that likes to work in silence and then just be like, boom, here it is, you know. But I have a horse I'm getting ready right now, and I would love to take him to the AQHA World Show. I was there last year, and I would love to go back again this year. And I don't know that he's going to be ready because I just recently started him a few months ago, but he's coming along, and I just really love this horse, and he's phenomenal. And I've been putting the extra time in on him, and he's just so good-minded. He's the one I took to the show this past weekend, and I didn't show him, but just put him up in a stall and let him hang out and be there and go stay overnight for a few days and stuff, and ride him around the facility. And that's just so good for them, even before you're showing, to kind of get out and about, and just really helps them, because then you don't have to focus on the strenuousness of riding a pattern and training for that pattern and everything, while also getting them exposed to an environment. It's a lot less mentally strenuous. So I have that. And then we do have that membership that we're planning to launch. And that has been interesting. And we're just trying to get the videos and the information and the content processed and categorized like it needs to be done before we can really get into that. And it's been a lot more complicated than I kind of like when I thought, oh, we'll start a membership. I didn't think about like the ad campaigns and the copyright and all the stuff that I wanted to, that needs to go into it to make it successful. And I'm the kind of person that really likes to have everything outlined and laid out before I just fall into something. I want to set it up to where it is successful, instead of just being like, oh, ta-da, here's a membership. Wait a minute, I didn't plan ahead. Now it's not working. So I'm trying to really plan that out pretty strategically. But we do hope to get that out. That is one of my big goals for this year.
That is very exciting.
Yeah. So working hard on that, trying to make some quality content. And so
cool. So where can people find out about that then, if they want to learn more about that?
So we'll be posting it on, obviously, once we do launch it, we'll be sure to post it on our Facebook page, Zacharias Horsemanship, as well as YouTube. That's also Zacharias Horsemanship, and our website. So we'll have all of that on there if people want to find out more about that and stay up to date on it. I really, I feel like I've been a little bit behind in my plans for it, but it is still coming out. We do have some big plans for that. And I've got some other goals this year, but those are my two main ones that are like, this has to get done this year.
And is there a Mustang Makeover this year? I don't know what time of year they normally are.
There are, but what happened was last year with the whole COVID thing, or I guess it's still running this year too, but what happened with that is that they pushed the makeover off, and they just kind of canceled it completely because Texas was shutting a bunch of stuff down. And so they have 3 more this year. The one in Kentucky's already gone virtual. And then I think they have one in New Jersey, and I'm pretty sure that might be virtual also. And then one in Oklahoma City, which is like right near us. It's like 2.5 hours from us. But it's a smaller event. And it's just with the stuff that we have going on this year, we figured it would probably be better if we just waited out a year and then come back to it later. So
is this your first year off since you were 14?
Just about. I did take 16 off because that was the year we got married. So yeah, and my husband gave me 4 months to plan. So he proposed to me in May, and then he's like, "Oh, how does October sound?" So
no, wait, sorry, I'm going to trump you there. I planned my wedding in 6 weeks.
No,
I organised it via Facebook events. I invited people on Facebook. So there you go.
You got to do what you got to do. I'm telling you, like, everyone's all about this traditional thing, and I tried to be pretty traditional about it. But I mean, it's 2021. You can't can't do
Yeah.
everything right all the time. So yeah, I thought I had it bad at 4 months, man. 6 weeks.
Yeah, when you get to our age, though, it's like, let's just get it done. It's fine.
Right. I get it.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you again, and thank you very much. And we'll keep an eye on your on what you're up to on the YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun visiting with you, and I appreciate your support and for following along and stuff. So you have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.